Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. This is your boy, the coach from the WWE. I would like to welcome you to the very first wrestling podcast in the world to take you on a weekly deep dive into classic matches along with legends of the squared circle. Enjoy the discussion. Enjoy the back and forth. There's so much to get into. Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Payoff.
Welcome to an all-new episode of The Payoff. I'm Tom. That's Jeff. Jeff, how the hell are you doing, my man?
I'm doing good. This is where are we at here? Let me pull up the calendar here. We got all kinds of good stuff happening. I'm feeling good on this one. It's where are we at? We're in December here. We've got Saturday night main event this weekend, Survivor Series behind us. We got just, the holiday season. How can you not feel good about that,
Man, I used to love in the 90s when they'd have Santa come out. Santa gave Bret Hart the title one year at Survivor Series. I'd like to see Santa. And then during the Attitude Era, Santa would come out and get the shit kicked out of him. But
right, hey, you could do it again. Why not?
It's a sign of the times.
That maybe once they get onto Netflix, we're a little too. Well, we got a couple weeks till we make the switch here. Maybe that'll be a Netflix thing. Yeah.
So this match, how did we pick it?
Yeah, so this was when I was their first Heat match. So I will talk a little bit about WWFE Heat as we get into this. But this was, I guess, the best way to put it is it's just kind of who watches Heat. Who actually kind of, we got to be some of the only people on the planet that go and dig into the run of Heat episodes to see if there was anything decent in there. And so this one, not incredible. But there was a lot of good matches that happened there. They're all on the shorter side because Heat, and you'll talk about it when we get into the card, Heat is actually, it was an hour long, but they've got 6 matches on this. And so they have to be short just because of the nature of what it is. And so that's kind of wild, but this was one that just kind of stood out as one of the better matches on Heat. It definitely, as we talk about, it kind of falls. It was really because there was no SmackDown at this point either. So we'll talk about that. And so that plays a lot into them just having to continue the story on some of this stuff. And some of it was just, it's it was really the collision of WWE at the point of they had it was what they were taping after Raw, and so then you get that on a weekly show later in the week. And so but this match was one that just stood out. I do have a couple more lined up in early 2025 as well too. I see one, the other, which it's a long way of doing, everybody forget the next match I have, it's actually Mr. Perfect and Rob Van Dam. So I feel like there's also some weird not weird but unusual matches that you may not see any other way. And so yeah, that's why a lot of reasons to cover this one, but a lot of reasons not to as well. So yeah,
love it. All right, let's get into the build.
Oh, it's time for the build.
All right, so like you said, we are taping this at a Raw taping. So this actually occurred on December 14th, 1998, and then would air on December 20th. We're at the Tacoma Dome in Tacoma, Washington. And to your point, we have 6 matches on this show. And so I'd imagine that whoever was booking these matches just paired up people that they thought would be relatively fast matches. So they weren't making these competitive, because if they were, the matches would have been so long that they never would have been able to air this many on an episode.
Right.
X-Pac is going to secure a victory over Tiger Ali Singh in a non-title match. Brian Christopher is going to tag with Kevin Quinn, who's subbing for Scott Taylor. They're going to go against the Hardy Boys and beat the Hardy Boys. Al Snow is going to defeat Draws. The Headbangers are going to defeat the Oddities. The New Age Outlaws are going to defeat the Disciples of Apocalypse. And then our main event, Rock, Bossman, Shamrock, and Mankind. Pretty wild 4-way match. I mean, even at this point, Shamrock's a big name. Mankind, 1998, he's a big star. Bossman, your favorite wrestler of all time, and The Rock, I mean, was well on his way at this point. So these are pretty big stars to be in this match. Was this thrown together? Was there some build for it? How do we get to this fatal four-way?
Yeah, so there was this really, like I said, kind of fell in where there's some other storylines going on Raw. Heat, like I said, so a little bit of history on Heat at this point. It debuted August 1998. It was an hour-long show it aired on Sunday nights. So like you said, this was taped earlier in the week, usually after Raw. And at the time, this was the really the only kind of secondary show that was happening, because SmackDown didn't premiere until August of 1999. And so at that point, Heat turned into a little bit more of like a kind of like a summary show, like kind of a talking head almost type piece where, occasional interviews and things like that. It was also, if you remember, it was on MTV for a while. So there was some musical component to it as well, too. So that was kind of weird. But it did eventually kind of get back into matches, of course. And I do have it. I feel like I'm spoiling a lot for 2025 already here, but Halftime Heat happened as well, too. I have Halftime Heat on our list for next year during football season, or the end of football season, so we can kind of go back and watch that one. And so, but it was really, like I said, it continued on the storylines that were happening on Raw. Pretty easy because it was taped right after. And so to have that, one kind of interesting fact, it was actually only supposed to be 6 episodes. That was what they initially signed up for. And then it was so successful that it ran for as long as it did. And so it was on USA for about 2 years. It jumped to MTV for almost 3 years. And then it was on Spike TV for a while too, for about 2 years. And then even jumping online, just to WWE.com and doing that. And so it was all over the place. And so, yeah, just one of those though that who was watching Heat, on Sundays? We just weren't. It did, as we all know at the time, like the pay-per-views were on Sundays. And so if there was a pay-per-view that week, then they would end up doing this as like almost like the pre-show as well, too. So you get into that. But for these guys, all the people in here, it was really everybody against Mankind. That's the best way to kind of look at that. Like you said, you had Bossman, Shamrock, Mankind, and The Rock. I'll start kind of in reverse order here of how I have it. Of Shamrock, he was turned heel actually in October. He won the vacant Intercontinental Championship that month, defeating X-Pac. It was the 8-man tournament to get that. He actually, his first title defense was against Mankind at Judgment Day in your house. He retained at that one. So like I said, Mankind's going to be the focal point on this one. So he had a little bit of story with Mankind going on here. Big Boss Man, of course, this was, of course, the part of the corporation was a big part of what was going on as well at this point, too. You actually had Boss Man and Shamrock winning the tag championships as well as the hardcore championship as well too, to Bossman actually 4 times. Didn't realize he was a 4-time hardcore champion, and so had that quite a bit. But and he beat Mankind to win it. That was actually in Raw. It would have been about 2 or 3 weeks before this match, I'd say, happened, occurred, aired, whatever you want to put it. And so the New Age Outlaws ended up beating Bossman and Shamrock for the tag titles. There was a little bit happening there, again winning, just kind of so. Bossman and Shamrock were really kind of feuding with the Outlaws, but then also like being, the corporation as well too. Now, Mankind and The Rock, they had, I'd say, the meat of this story at this point. We'll kind of start actually with October. This is when you had Mankind showing up with Yerpel, the clown, as well too. After Vince being beat up by Undertaker and Kane for that as well too. Only kind of upsetting McMahon. This was also the debut of Mr. Sacco as well too, and having that. And so this was really at the height of kind of what Mankind was doing and kind of having that. And so you also had the Mankind was being pushed to be the WWF champion. It's Survivor Series. You had the tournament that was going on there. You had The Rock and him in the finals of that one, but you had Mankind turning on Mankind. Yeah, McMahon turning on Mankind, who had kind of been treating him as a father figure, siding with The Rock is that one too. There was a little bit of a throwback to the screw job at this point, being Survivor Series. You had The Rock actually put Mankind in the sharpshooter, rang the bell right away. That was just the whole thing. And so this is really just a couple weeks prior to this Heat match is when The Rock joined the corporation as well too. And so the day before this, I say the Sunday prior to this one, you had Rock Bottom in your house. You had Mankind beating The Rock actually in a title shot, but McMahon overruled it. And so so this week was on Sunday, you actually had Mankind beating The Rock, but not because McMahon overturned it. Then you had Raw of that week, and then filmed immediately after was this Heat. And so this, as a match, I'll call it gently, it takes place when you've had McMahon pissed off and his corporation of all these other people in the match against Mankind kind of going at it. And so just to kind of emphasize, so I'm actually interested to see how this plays out in regards to that piece of the story. I think it'll be interesting, definitely. But kind of a cool little build. I like how they got there, and the match, even if this is just going to be a beatdown for a little bit here, it does make a ton of sense though for the storyline purposes.
Love it, man. Yeah, this is just it's good old fashioned entertainment. So we are on Peacock. It's season 1, episode 21. It's the December 20th, 1998 Heat. December 20th, 1998. We're at the 38-minute mark. Jeff, are you ready?
Yeah, let's do this.
All right. It's time for
it's time for the payoff.
the payoff. All right, here we go. So they're going to do this where 2 guys are in the ring and then 2. I guess that's how a fatal 4-way works. I actually thought a fatal 4-way was all 4 could be in the ring at the same time, but maybe the rules have changed. We're still waiting on that official WWE rule book, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'll have to reference my rules here. I see Michaels is ringside as well too. He's kind of getting into it with Shane over at the announce table. I see him on the far side of the camera.
Can you hear that audio?
Yeah, you're good.
All right, great. We're linked up there. Oh, a little spit coming out of the Bossman from that clothesline. Yeah. We got to talk fast. I have a feeling this is not going to be a 25-minute match.
Yeah, this one's going to be pretty quick here. Yeah, like I said, I was actually there.
Quickly, let me give you the top Heat matches of all time. We had January 31st, 1999 Rock Austin match, if you can believe that. So this was before their WrestleMania 15 match. We had a street fight with Edge and Matt Hardy in 2005. We had a Rock X-Pac match in 99. Triple H D'Lo Brown in 98. Jeff Hardy and Rob Van Dam had a hardcore match. Undertaker and Kane had a casket match. Hardy's versus Edge and Christian in 99. Rock Mankind's empty arena match, which was the Super Bowl one. Eddie Guerrero and Chris Jericho. Steve Austin and Big Boss Man. So yeah, I'll tell you, you got some real star power, and I felt like at various times, Jeff, they definitely were trying to pump up the Heat ratings.
Yeah, well, and you wonder so much of these too. You need to look at so this was a continuation really after a paper. You got The Rock in the ring now, kind of arguing with the ref as well too. I think you'd have to look because this works because it continued the story of that week, and so a lot of these you figure it may have just been the taping of the dark matches, whatever, that's fine. But I think too, at the same time, this one, like you said, there's a ton of star power here. They were definitely trying to keep eyes on this.
So you brought up an interesting point about the NXT show at the 2300 Arena, ECW Arena. And it begs the question, where else should NXT be running shows at really unique venues?
Yeah. And so it was funny because then I literally said next year is the anniversary of the Mall of America WCW. Like that'd be just wild to see. Like if they could pull that off. Like I know there's a lot of, if you're online a lot, you see a lot. The conversation is that Shawn Michaels pulls a lot of the female talent from Instagram pages that he must be following because they're all hotter than hell. And so, part of me hopes that like he did see, this Mall of America tweet that somebody put out there and doing that. There's just so many, a lot of these arenas they've done, but I think these smaller ones where NXT can thrive, it makes a ton of sense. Like I would love to have them go back to that, to the Mall of America. I don't even know how you would pull it off and make it happen, but why not,
So, Hammerstein Ballroom in New York would be a cool one.
Yep.
For an NXT show.
Keep doing the Manhattan Center.
Have you ever heard of, and I don't even know if it's still around, but Cobo Hall in Detroit?
Cobo Hall, yes. And so Cobo is so it actually used to be attached to it was Joe Louis Arena where the Red Wings play. It's called something else now, but yeah, it's right downtown Detroit. Yes. It's called something else now. It's where the Detroit Auto Show is, but it's a big convention center. Yeah.
Here's a good one. And I looked up a list. Okay. So here's a real good idea. How about for the Bash at the Beach, anniversary? What if you did one there at the venue where they, I think it was like the Ocean Center or whatever in Daytona Beach where Hogan came out and turned heel.
Do it on the absolutely.
That would
just be cool.
Yeah, that would be a cool one.
You got
here's another interesting one. How about doing it? This would be tough to pull off, but in the parking lot of Caesar's Palace, like WrestleMania 9.
Oh man, yeah. You and I, is that parking lot even there now? You and I have been to Vegas enough times. Like they, I don't even know where you would do it out there anymore. But yeah, like that would just be crazy.
And then another one would be Sturgis, where they used to do Road Wild.
Do Road Wild. Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Oh, rock bottom on the chair.
Vince calling the shots now. Yep, he's down there.
Yes.
Is that Test as well too? It looked like. Yep.
God, they're just killing Mankind here.
Yeah, they're just killing Mankind at this point. Yeah, like I said, like keep doing the Manhattan Center. That's an easy go-to one. Like to kind of doing that. I think you and I both.
Sportatorium in Dallas.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I was pretty shocked that they were going to the ECW arena like that. Like I remember sending that to you, and I'd be like, oh man, I hope he hasn't seen this yet because he's gonna freak out. Like yeah. I mean, just really a beat down of Mankind. That's it.
Enjoying their work tonight. The dismantling of Mankind. It's abuse of power, Shane. That's not abuse of power. Give me a break. It is the absolutely.
Hey, before we leave, we flew through this, man. There's a what's Ken Shamrock? What's his UFC record?
And
7-6-2. He did 15 fights.
Didn't he just get a Legends contract too?
He did.
I was going to say, yeah. So look at that. All right. And so now, so we got a little bit of a save here. Who is this? The New Age Outlaws are out there. X-Pac. I see Triple H too. Yep. So Degeneration X out there kind of fending off everybody as we go off the air. Yep. Okay.
There you go. Okay. Yeah. It's time for the aftermath.
It's time for the aftermath.
What'd you think?
Yeah, not like it wasn't a match. It was really just a beatdown of Mankind. Like he got a little bit of offense in, but I think from the standpoint of continuing the storyline that had been happening and like just the corporation's dominance over Mankind, like it makes a ton of sense to me. I don't have a problem with it. It was fine for what it was. Like it was fine. Yeah.
Yeah, it did what it needed to do. Those were always fun shows too, an hour. And then they lead into pay-per-views on pay-per-view nights.
Makes sense.
So
Yeah,
what
absolutely.
happened after this one?
Yeah, so getting into this one, so again, we'll kind of go in the order we went through. So Shamrock, it was actually you had the debut of Orion at this point with Billy Gunn and Val Venus and that whole storyline, which was just weird. You ended up having a match between Ken Shamrock and Billy Gunn for the Intercontinental Championship at Royal Rumble. Shamrock retaining it that one, but then the next night, Bossman and Shamrock losing their tag titles to Jeff Jarrett and Owen Hart. Now, Bossman on the flip side to this one in 1999, after this, came into the Royal Rumble, eliminated a couple guys. I see X-Pac, D'Lo Brown, before eventually being eliminated by Stone Cold. At that one, they actually lost a non-title match to the New Age Outlaws there as well too. But then, like I said, ended up losing the belts to Owen Hart and Jeff Jarrett. Now, Mankind and The Rock, you eventually had. This was, of course, the don't change the channel. Like, that's going to put butts in the seats comment from WCW and Tony Schiavone, where Mankind did eventually beat The Rock, winning his first championship. That was in Worcester, Massachusetts. It was broadcast on January 4th, but like we said, it was taped December 29th. And so the results were out there. But then again, don't change the channel, put some butts in seats, and then everybody changed the channel. So that kind of leading to that, and kind of dealing with that. And so WCW never beat, as we all know, that was the end of them in the ratings war at that point too. So just a lot of interest. It was just fun. And so PWI, you had Bossman 139, Shamrock 8, Mankind 26, The Rock 11. It really just kind of, because it was a heat, there wasn't a ton out there other than the torch kind of describing the match. So that was kind of all you got on this one. Total Annihilation. It says Vincent Test watched the match in the back, and a monitor came out later to ringside. Like, just normal stuff here, not a big one. Even the Observer said Rock won a four corners match over Bossman, Mankind, and Shamrock. That doesn't even tell the story, but that's what it is. And so yeah, what are you thinking for a score on this one? What do you have?
Well, before I give my score, I just want to. This is a Triple H compliment. Do you see the difference in the product now? Like, here's arguably, okay, there's many things that are far better about the product now than 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I would argue the thing I like best about the product now is it's just awesome 12 months a year.
Yeah.
Understand that forever, for as long as we were fans, there were good months and bad months. Okay? Yeah. And a bad month was always December.
Yeah.
So, like, they were killing time to get to the Royal Rumble. And it's like, now there's just not a bad month. It's like, you got this, then you got this, then you got this. And Raw and SmackDown are more than watchable every week. There's big storylines happening. Then you have the big matches on the PLEs, and it's just so much better now. So my payoff score on this, again, we're just killing time. I'm going real low on this one. I'm actually going to give it a 3. I thought it was pretty bad. What about you?
Yeah, that's oddly enough, that's exactly where I had it. And so I was thinking a 2, maybe a 3, because unless you knew everything else that was going on, this doesn't make a ton of sense. And also, like I said, it wasn't a match. It wasn't. And so, kind of dealing with that, not bad by any means, but you got to put it in the context of everything else and kind of what you're dealing with. And so, but yeah, I think overall it was pretty good though. Yeah.
What do we have next week?
What do we have next week? So we're going to NXT next week, actually. I tried to cover as we closed out the year here a bunch of different things. And so, we were TNA last week. I had us at Heat this week. Next week, we're going to NXT. We have Cesaro versus William Regal, actually. I know a while back I had talked about William Regal, and so I wanted to watch a Regal match. So we've got that. We've got Monday Night Raw, and then we're closing out the year with Starrcade. And so, so we've got a lot happening. Yeah.
I'm pumped, man. It should be a fun match. So, as always, we appreciate you listening. We'll see you next week on an all-new episode of The Payoff.